Welcome to the WVU football pregame show on thedpost.com. I'm Todd Murray along with Ed Owens. And Ed, today the Mountaineers in Stillwater to take on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Facing an Oklahoma State defense that has been susceptible to giving up a lot of yards through the air. Could be a big afternoon for Clint Trickett and company.
Absolutely. Oklahoma State has been shredded this season. They are the worst pass defense in the Big 12 right now, giving up close to 300 yards per game. They've allowed the most passing touchdowns in the Big 12 at 13. They're the only Big 12 team to have allowed 2,000 yards through the air this season. And you have to think, for a guy like Clint Trickett, who has a weapon like Kevin White, they have to be licking their chops right now. WVU's passing game has been on point so far this year. Trickett's the number 3 passer in the country. Kevin White is a leading receiver in the country. These guys have a lot of opportunities, and they need to take advantage of a young Oklahoma State secondary. Talked to the guys earlier in the week. They said they want to make sure they're not pressing, they're not trying to force things that aren't there, but at the same time, they acknowledge that there's a lot of good opportunities out there for them today.
Defensively for the Mountaineers, a big key in last week's upset of Baylor was getting to the quarterback. They took Bryce Petty down 4 times, and they face an Oklahoma State team that has been giving up quite a few sacks this season. I would assume that's going to be another big key today.
Yeah, I'd say you're absolutely right there. I think getting to Dax Garman is going to be priority number 1 for WVU against this kind of suspect Oklahoma State offensive line. WVU, as you mentioned, did get a lot of success going after Petty, and what helped them was that they were able to cover in man on the outside. Their cornerbacks were doing a really good job against Baylor's receivers. That allowed the safeties to come up and help play the run. It allowed them to use them in different ways and get that pressure on them, which didn't only come from the defensive line. Now, WVU's corners are going to have a different challenge for them today, especially with a guy like Terrell Chestnut out, who has been playing great for them this season. Last week, Chestnut and Darrell Worley both got injured. Worley's status is still day-to-day. Dana Holgerson has already ruled Chestnut out, which means, again, you're going to be looking at guys like Ickey Banks and Ricky Rumpf having to step up and really kind of shoulder more of the workload than they have.
Right. This streak the Mountaineers are on has a lot of people talking about 2012 when they started off 5-0 and then the season just went downhill quickly. I know the players and coaches have said that that's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, this is WVU's first 3-game conference streak since 2012, and that brings back some good memories and also some very bad. They won the first 5 games of the year, they climbed to number 5 in the rankings, and they immediately fell apart. Coming off a big emotionally charged win against Texas, they went on the road to Texas Tech, and they fell flat. So now they're coming off a big emotionally charged win against a Baylor team that was ranked number 4 in the country, and the guys have vowed not to let it happen again. Kyle Rose actually told me earlier this week they're not going to choke like they did in 2012. He said that team didn't have the mentality. One of the biggest differences, he said, was that they got complacent. They were satisfied with where they were. They started buying into the hype. This team, you don't get the sense that they're buying into it. They're saying, we're number 22, yeah, that's great. Thanks for acknowledging us, but we still have a lot of work to do. This team's hungry. They have a lot to prove, and I think they're looking forward to getting out there and proving it against Oklahoma State.
And we'll see how it all plays out today. Thanks, Ed, for your time. Please continue to follow our WVU football coverage on thedpost.com.